Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to North Reef City here on City Skylines. This week, I am doing lots of little odds and bits, and then I'm going to be building a massive new park for the city, which I'm very, very excited about. Those of you who are members of my Discord, you will have already seen the preview, or a little sneak preview, and I love it. I think it looks freaking awesome. I can't wait to show you guys. But first and foremost, I am upgrading the bus rapid transit line here to this new design. Basically, I went on the workshop and I discovered that there were some parts of the BRT from Ride Transport, whatever it's called, that I hadn't downloaded for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I went through and found those on the workshop, downloaded them, added them to my game, and upgraded the road here to those. That's step one. Now, most of what you've just seen me do here becomes obsolete in a little bit because we do some reworking of this bridge here. Basically, I found this asset on the workshop, the Bay Bridge, with a really, really awesome tutorial. I'd love to be able to tell you who it was who made it, but I can't remember, so apologies for that. But it's I think it's a recreation, actually, rather than inspired by the actual Bay Bridge in San Francisco. And it looks really cool. Really, really cool. And yeah, we're going to be using that here. So the plan is to have these two bridges run side by side, as you can see. And then, oh yeah, I had all sorts of problems getting this bridge in. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm also not going to talk too much this week, in fact. I'm going to let the music do quite a lot of the work for some of these bits. And then we'll come back and I'll wrap it away after that. But yeah, these bridges here, they're double-decker. So there's a deck on top, which is the one you can see. And then there's a deck underneath, which is hidden. But, well, it's not hidden. You can still see it through the sides. But it means you can run other things underneath. If you think about, I want to say the Brooklyn Bridge, I believe I'm right, in New York, where it's got the New York subway underneath and it's got the road on top and then it's got pedestrian paths in the middle and things like that. Kind of like that. As I said, it's inspired by, in fact, it's a recreation of the Bay Bridge in San Francisco, which is kind of the forgotten bridge. Everyone talks about the Golden Gate. Not many people talk about the Bay Bridge, but it does exist. I can assure you it exists. And it looks really, really cool. It's a really nice looking bridge. And this asset is a really nice looking asset. I think the mod author did a really, really good job. So we've got this this new pair of bridges. It's not perfectly straight. As you saw, I upgraded the vanilla roads here. And I don't think they were built perfectly straight. So we've got a little bit of weaving going on, shall we say. And then I actually go and add the BRT layer to the bottom deck of what is currently the left-hand side. But yeah, the one that runs towards the city centre has the BRT underneath. And not just that, in fact, I think there's room for the light rail system as well to also fit there. And then the other side might be rail. It might just be conventional rail, or it'll be something. It won't be another road because I don't think we need that. And I'm trying to think of anywhere in the UK where we have one road stacked on top of the other. I'm not thinking of any. The high level bridge in Newcastle, the railway's on top and the road is underneath, so it's kind of what we've got here but the opposite. But besides that though, I'm not thinking of any, so I don't think there are any. Maybe not. There are ones where the road runs side by side at a higher level, but not one where it runs directly one on top of the other. If I've got that wrong though, please do let me know in the comments down below. I'd be very interested in knowing. What else am I doing here? Oh yeah, so that's what I need to remember. There's a bit coming up here where I start watching the video tutorial. The author of the mod very kindly created a tutorial as well to show you how to actually use the individual pieces of the bridge. Because of that, there's a bit coming up where I think I do just pause for a bit whilst I'm looking at actually how to do the damn thing. It's not the most intuitive. Once you get your head around it, it's fairly simple and straightforward. But the initial bit, yeah, it's not very intuitive. So I do struggle somewhat. I think it's this part here, in fact, where I'm looking through and seeing what I can do. But yeah, you'll see me build the rest of the bridge here, and you'll see me build the BRT through the bottom deck And then I think I do a couple of other things. Oh yeah, the other thing I do is I move the BRT. So we got the two avenues that go into the city centre, and I actually move the BRT in between those two roads alongside the light rail system. So you'll see me do that as well in just a second. So as you can see, I've moved the BRT into the middle of the avenue, I suppose you could call it. And I've also dedicated the... Have I done that at this point? I think I'm about to dedicate the bus-only roads. One thing I will say, so right now the BRT dives down underground alongside the light rail, but I think in the future that will actually get in the way of the light rail and maybe even a metro line or two. So my new plan is to elevate the BRT through that section and maybe even lift it just above the main road and have it run that way. I don't know yet entirely what's happening there, but that's my idea. We'll see how well that works. Now this section here, upgrading these roads. So I wanted to have the bus lanes in the middle and have the normal roads either side, and that might still end up being the case. But right now I just wanted to get an idea for what this might look like in this part of the city. Again, bear in mind this is kind of the city centre, but it also kind of isn't. And the more I was building this part of the city, the less I was thinking it was part of the city centre. The more I was thinking it was just part of the city, like not suburbs, but not like, you know, central business district or anything like that. So again, we'll have to see what's going on there. I don't know. I'm just talking gibberish right now. I'm just watching what's happening on the screen. This little bus tunnel then, this might end up being converted into a conventional road in the future. But I wanted the the arena line, which is the bus line that goes between Reef Square and the arena, funny enough. I wanted that to use this new bus road that I built. And the only way to do that was to have some way of it going between the two sides of the avenue here. So I built this little bus loop. I then had to do a little bit of jiggery-pokery to actually force the buses to use this road. But eventually, they do use it. And they do go to and from the arena in the way that I was expecting, which is nice. This Metro Plaza that we've got here, I'm still a huge fan of this. I kind of regret building it here, though. I think it would have looked better elsewhere in the city. But I think in terms of like a satellite hub for this part of the city, it works very, very well. And it kind of inspired me to want to work more with building plazas and things like that, which is something I do a little bit later on in this video. Or at least that was the plan, was to build a big park with a plaza, and it kind of escalates into something else completely. But yeah, there we are. I love the fact as well, by the way, I don't know if this is a mod or if this is an update in the game, but I love the fact that I can use traffic lights now for bus lanes and actually have a dedicated priority bus, which I don't think I've ever been able to do that before. So it's really, really cool that that's now an option. And again, you can see it here, letting the bus out. Try to remember how, I think I signaled this properly. Hopefully I did. And then, yeah, just turning different vehicles on and off on different lanes, forcing the buses to use the bus lanes only, and then keeping everything else out of the bus lanes, which I think is set by standard anyway. But keeping the buses out of the non-bus lanes was a priority there. And then here I'm just trying to force the buses to actually use the U-turn. So the way I did that was just stopped buses running on some of these roads. This part here, I realised that this road just disappeared. I have no idea when that happened. I don't know whether I did that when I was removing the BRT or what, but something went wrong here. So I had to come through and change that again, which was slightly irritating, but what can you do? There you go, that's that all fixed. I had to do a little bit of, again, jiggery-pokery up here. Just to... Do I use move it there? I think I do. Yeah, there we go. Just to straighten that out a little bit more. And there it is. All nice and fixed. Lovely stuff. Every now and then I notice something stupid like that. And I think, how did that happen? Then I have to go through and fix it. But otherwise, you know, it's not too bad. It's not the end of the world at the end of the day. And we're done. So yes, this next part of the video then, I'm going to start explaining what it is now, and then I'm going to sort of let the music take over again, and then we'll come back a little bit later on and we'll be able to see there's the bus working as intended now, which I'm very happy about as well. Yeah, I'm going to let the music take over again in a little bit, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I'm building. But I wanted to build in the city centre some kind of like Central Park inspired, or Hyde Park, Regent's Park, Green Park, you know, name any park in London, basically. I wanted to have something sort of inspired by that. And originally it was just going to be a couple of plazas some trees, benches, stuff like that. I wasn't necessarily going to make it a city park. I just wanted to make it, or any park, I just wanted to make it like a nice green space. Maybe pop down a couple of tourist attracting assets just to get people to actually go there. Instead, though, it kind of snowballed a little bit. So this bit I'm building here, this is stage 1 of this project, which was I wanted some kind of system where cars can turn off straight after the bridge here, basically. This is like the main boulevard that wraps around this part of the map, which it's kind of an island. It's like a peninsula, I suppose, which might end up being this part of the city's name, something peninsula. I haven't decided yet. And this is so that vehicles can access this main road, basically, because the main road has to cross over this road at some point, and this was the best way I could think of to actually do it. So what I decided to do here was to build another one of my failed attempts at a vanilla overpass / underpass. In this case, it's an underpass. And I wanted to experiment. So over in the Reef Square part of the city, I just used a conventional 2-lane in the centre. This one, I wanted to go for a 4-lane in the centre. And originally I was going to have just 1 lane either side and have it at 6 lanes in total. What I didn't realise was you actually have one with 2 lanes either side of the 4 lanes in the middle. So we end up with an 8-lane road, which is perfect for a busy part of the city, which ideally, hopefully this is. And it is still, you know, if you think about this this avenue, this main avenue with the BRT and the light rail in the middle, it is essentially an 8-lane road. So to have an 8-lane road meet an 8-lane road, that sounds about right to me. I used the wrong 4-lane in the middle here, though, before anyone comments on that. So I do go and change that, and I do end up having to rebuild a lot of this, actually, in the end. And something else I build a little bit later on is a roundabout on the right-hand side of the screen where you're looking now. And that was to allow vehicles to turn round. So if they're coming from Reef Square towards the city centre, they can turn left here, up to the roundabout, do a U-turn, and then they can cross underneath to the other side. I was going to do something similar for the cars coming in the other direction. So if they're coming from the city centre towards Reef Square, then they can turn off, go around a roundabout and come back. But I do end up building like a city block, so they can just loop around that way instead. And it basically does the same job, so no worries there. So this park then, where we're looking now is one corner of this park. The top left of your screen right now is where the park ends up being built. And again, I just wanted to like plaza, trees, that kind of thing. Instead, I end up tripping and falling and building a zoo. It's one of those things, you know, you can do it completely by accident. You just don't even realize you're doing it. So I'm going to let this sort of road layout thing play out a little bit more. You know now that I'm building a zoo, so there's no surprises there. But when I get down to actually start building it properly, I'll come back and let you guys know more about just what exactly is going on your screens. So this is the start of the park itself. I wanted to build something just off the main road where the zoo could actually be built around. Kind of like a perimeter road, I suppose, but I wanted it to be a little bit more decorative than that. So I went with this pathway again. It's one I seem to use quite a lot, unintentionally, mind. I might actually see if there are other ones that I could use instead of this one, just for different sake, basically. Now, what you're about to see here, this zoo, it might not be the best looking build ever. I'm sure there are better looking builds on YouTube from people playing Skylines and things like that. But, you know, me personally, I'm very proud of this. For someone who doesn't normally do aesthetically pleasing builds, this was kind of very, very much out of what I'm... out of the zone of which I'm normally comfortable, shall we say. You know, normally I build things that sometimes look good, but mostly just work. In the past, playing Cities in Motion 2, I like to build things that looked good and worked, but sometimes you have to sacrifice one in favour of the other, which is what I feel like I do for the most part in City Skylines as well. This, however, was different. I had a lot of free time when I was recording this. It was late at night, actually. So you can kind of see I get slower and slower as the build goes on. But I had a long, hard week at work. I just wanted to sit down and play some City Skylines and get some building going. And I was just kind of reminiscing about old family trips to London Zoo and things like that. For those of you that don't know, London Zoo is right in the middle of London, pretty much. It's in Regent's Park. It's a very surreal thing. It's not just London Zoo. There are lots of other zoos around the world. I mean, Bristol Zoo, which unfortunately is closing at the end of this year, is also one of these zoos. It is right in the heart of the community, and is surrounded on all four sides by houses, roads. You know, in the case of London Zoo, the Regent's Canal, I think it's Regent's Canal or Grand Union Canal, runs right through the middle of it as well. London Zoo also has a road running right through the middle of it, so you have to go through a tunnel to get from one side to the other, which I think some people actually don't realise sometimes, is that London Zoo is split in half. But it is. There are two sides to the zoo. Technically three, because you can go over the canal and go into some exhibits on the other side of the canal as well. And that's what I was inspired by here. So you will see the way this zoo takes place. I do put the animal exhibits down fairly randomly. I had my partner helping me with some of it, and she was kind of just pointing out random places to put things down as well. Kind of how some zoos are. There's a zoo I won't name it because I don't want to make anyone think it's bad or anything, because I'm pretty sure it's not. But they just got such a random placement of animals. They've got like the same breed or same species in like 5 different places throughout the zoo. And then they've just got random, like they've got birds right next to wallabies and all sorts. And it's kind of, how did they decide to put them there? I don't know. But they have, and it's fine for the most part. And as I said, I'm sure it's not a bad zoo. I'm sure the animals are very well looked after. It's just, when you look at the map, it seems incredibly random. But there we are. This junction here, it's another manger junction. This is actually the other side of that loop that I was talking about. So the roundabout, I think you see me build it on camera. I'm pretty sure you do. That links up the way we're looking now at the end of the avenue, just before it meets the bridge, so that cars coming from Reef Square towards the city centre can actually double back and then use the underpass to then access the zoo. We've already got the transport links, as you can see. I was always planning on building something big around this area to justify having a BRT stop right next to a light rail station. A zoo is a pretty good excuse for that. That kind of reminds me of Amsterdam Zoo, which I've only been to once, and I think I spent like 3 hours there. So I'd love to go back and actually explore all of it, because I didn't get to see it all when I was there before. But from memory, it has, I think, 2 tram stops that serve it. And I think 3 or 4 lines call there. And then obviously there's bus stops nearby as well. I don't believe there's a metro station, or at least there wasn't when I went. And it seems a little out of the way in terms of transport links, which I kind of wanted to replicate here. Not entirely. I will still build an underground station nearby. But I don't think we're going to have heavy rail near here. I think that's going to be elsewhere in the city. And, you know, we've got 1 light rail station and 1 BRT stop, and that's it. We will build some bus stops on the surrounding streets as well for conventional buses, but that's pretty much it. That's all we've got here. But you can see it's a huge area, and I do make the most of the spacing that we've got here. But for the most part, it's just a zoo in the middle of the city that most people would probably get their own cars to. And we do build some car parking for that as well. Again, public transport is there if people want it. I don't want to force people to use public transport. I know people have done that in their cities, and I think that's really cool. But yeah, I don't see that as being something I want to do with this city. It might end up being something I end up doing with this city, but it's not the plan. This building here, I think it's called Magna Plaza. It's a beautiful looking building. I kind of wanted it to be part of the zoo, and came up with a clever idea. So these plazas either side, I have actually got some zoo entrances on this part, which is specifically for the public transport individuals. The main entrance, there are 4 entrances in total, 2 either side of Magna Plaza that I just placed there, the main entrance that I just placed there, and then there's another one at the riverside end of the road. I don't know who's going to use that. Maybe that's where the underground station will go. I haven't fully decided yet. Maybe there'll be another light rail station there, actually, because they don't necessarily have to be connected to one another to serve the zoo, which, again, is something else I'm learning, is how to do better transport connections without necessarily building things right next to each other. So this is North Reef Zoological Gardens. That is the official name. And the Magna Plaza, just to answer that thread that I started but never finished, that is the zoo offices. That's what I'm planning on using it as. And I think at the moment it's a commercial building. But I go and use Rico settings, which is a fantastic mod, by the way. The fact that you can change building functionality. That's so freaking cool. I love that. I change it into offices. I think it has 369 jobs offered from that one building alone, which sounds about what a zoo would employ, I'd imagine. 300, 400 people. It sounds plausible. So, perfect number, basically. And yeah, people come and work here now. Obviously, they don't work here as zookeepers. It's not quite that realistic or quite that detailed. But it is really cool that we've got people actually commuting to the zoo to work as well as to visit. I have also flagged this as being a main park in the city. You might have seen me do that just now. So it's going to be a very popular destination within the city. Reef Square actually isn't designated as a main park. I think it still currently has more visitors than the zoo, but the zoo is still new. So over time, hopefully the zoo will overtake the Reef Square as being the most popular. I kind of want this to be one of the most popular. I also do still want to build a Central Park type build somewhere. In fact, the other side of the river where the Metro Plaza is that I was talking about at the start of this video, that's a good candidate to have a park near there as well, on the other side of the main road. So potentially that could end up being maybe not like a Central Park, but more like a Green Park or a Regent's Park, like half of Regent's Park, half-size Regent's Park kind of thing. These zoo assets, by the way, some of them are really interesting. So some of them just connect to the path as normal, like you'd expect most buildings to. And some of them have paths already around them, which I wasn't aware of until I had the no road connection or no path connection pop up. And then I realized, like, oh, I've actually got to join these up, which, you know, I did, thankfully. Also went a bit zany with the wall around the zoo here. Some of it is straight, some of it's quite, zany is probably the best word for it. Completely had a brain fart then, forgot the English language. And then we've got this section here where the offices are. Again, we've got these lovely plazas either side. The one on the right, I think I might actually turn it into a commercial building just to get some shoppers down here as well. Was debating that. But then we got the office building, and then I do add some pathways and stuff so that people can access the zoo from the BRT and the light rail, which I think they were able to do via foot crossings. But I didn't really want them to do that. I'd rather they used grade separated crossings. This is me putting down some trees then. So this is what I mean by aesthetically pleasing builds. Something I don't do very often is place trees down and stuff like this. And I wanted to do it with Reef Square. I think I have gone back and done it at Reef Square since. If I haven't, I will be doing it. I didn't have the tree brush, that's why I didn't do it. And I didn't want to place down trees individually because it's a faff. So you'll see here I go through and I do add some trees manually, these big ones. I go around and add manually. But for the most part, I use the tree brush. And I also use the tree line, the line prop tool, which, again, I'd forgotten that I'd downloaded. It was only when I was looking at the bottom of the screen there, and I was like, oh, they've got the road tools here. What's that all about? And then click one by mistake. I was like, oh, yeah, I can actually use this. So I end up doing that. This little section here, this is going to end up being a little lake. Again, inspired by the lake. Oh, God, yeah, I forgot about that hole. It's going to be inspired by the lake at London Zoo. The main lake where the pelicans are. Those little devils, should we say. Pelicans are vicious little bastards. They really are. Some of them aren't even little. They're like 5 foot tall, which is incredibly scary. But yeah, this will be a lake. I'm just marking it with sand there to remind myself to fill it with water. I don't have the tool, it seems, to actually fill things with water. So I'll have to go back and get them. I'll fill that in as and when I can. One final part of the zoo build then is the parking, which is something, again, a bit like the arena. I might have gone a bit overboard with this. I haven't counted how many spaces I've got, but there are a lot. But I wanted it to be fairly realistic. And again, you know, a city centre zoo probably doesn't have as much parking as I've built here. But I wanted a substantial amount of parking for visitors, basically. Because, I mean, when you've got realistic population as well, you're going to have a lot of people in your city. And if you've got a lot of those people heading towards the same location, which in this case is, you know, a major park, then you do want either good transport links, which we're starting to establish, but we're not 100% there yet, or you want good parking. And that's what I wanted to focus on here. I don't know what happened here. It was some kind of texture glitch, and I didn't want to spend loads of time fixing it. I think it's because the land slopes away, so the parking spaces are stuck to the land, not to the road, which is kind of annoying, but we get around it just by doing it like this instead. We get lots of disabled parking because we want to be as accessible as possible to all. Really happy that they all fitted there as well, actually. I was very pleased with that. And then we put some electric vehicle charging points as well because it's a zoo, you know, trying to save the planet and all that kind of thing. It'd be a bit hypocritical if they didn't have electric vehicle parking. And again, it might look like I've gone overkill with the amount of EV charging points there, but again, it's city centre. This isn't necessarily just a parking area for the zoo. This might be a parking area for other parts of the city around it as well. There might be some... I mean, it could technically be park and ride when you think about it. We got transport links here, and if we put an underground station nearby as well, I mean, we can have one, like I said, an LRT station or an underground station on the waterfront as well for the zoo. But you could also have one a couple of streets up that this could also serve. So again, it kind of makes sense to have a large amount of parking. It's rare to have this amount of parking in a city centre, I admit, but it is plausible still. So yeah, make of that what you will. I'm not saying it's the most realistic thing I've ever built, but it's also not the most unrealistic thing I've ever built. So there's that. There's a couple of, yeah, there's things I remove here and things I add here and stuff like that as well. It's just take all that with a pinch of salt. And then we add some extra parking in the middle here. I do use the lane tool from Traffic Manager just to make sure that cars don't turn through these parking spaces. And again, I think it works quite well, so it's all good. So the final thing you'll see me build then is the access to the zoo from the BRT and LRT. The way I do that is to use a bridge on one side and a tunnel on the other. And I think for the most part, it works really well. People tend to use the tunnel more than the bridge for some reason, but I wanted to have both as an option anyway. And like I said, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I think this is one of my best builds. And using the prop line tool, for adding trees in, I think is really, really cool as well. You'll actually see in a second, I make it so that buses can go on the perimeter road up to the zoo entrance. And I was thinking about building some kind of bus station within that part of the roadway, just so that buses don't stop on the main road. They leave the main road and drop off passengers basically right outside the zoo. I might either do that or I might use it for a bus tour kind of thing instead. We'll see. I'm not 100% certain on that still, but yeah, we'll see. Right, that pretty much does it for this episode, to be honest. Again, this wasn't what I was planning on building today. Today I was planning on adding more housing, more industrial, things like that. The industrial area that we've got currently is very, very much inadequate right now. You can tell that just by looking at the industrial demand at the bottom of the screen there. Sort of got an idea as to what to do with that. Sort of. Plans are being drawn up in my head as we speak. I make it sound really official, don't I? But literally, I'm just making it up as I go along, which is what this was. So yeah, no upgrades to the industrial area right now. That might be next week. Next week might be adding more housing, which is stupid, I admit, because we don't really have any demand for housing right now. But I kind of want to do it still, just so that it's ready when the demand does arrive. We can at least zone out some areas, you know, and put some parks down and try and make it a nice place to live so that when the city does eventually grow, the housing is already ready to go as well. That would be nice. Besides, oh yeah, I tried to copy the bridge. This is why it ended up being a tunnel, because I tried to copy the bridge and it just didn't look very nice. So I thought, you know what, stuff it. Even this wouldn't look very nice because of the building in the way. So I thought, I'm just going to go underground instead. Makes my life a little bit easier. So we did it like this instead. I keep saying that like it's a thing. There's a bit there where you can kind of see through the void in the pathway. You can do it on one side but not the other. You can see I'm trying to fix it there and it doesn't really do anything. So I'm just going to leave that for now. The buses are pretty packed as they come through here right now. Lots of people are going to the zoo. They seem to be coming in from the BRT more than driving, in that I don't think I've actually seen anyone park here yet, which is, I mean, it's not the biggest concern, I suppose. There are other things that I should be worried about, but I'd still like to you know, make this more of a desirable place to travel to. So we'll look at that. And then it's just trees and bushes around the rest of this, which I love. There you go. Just delete a tree there by mistake. And this is where it starts to look really nice. And I'm actually going to put some trees like this around the zoo itself as well, just to kind of hide it from the outside world. You know, when you've got animals living in a city centre like this, you do want to look after them, and trees are a good sound barrier for that. So you'll see me next episode probably going through and actually creating that tree line. Either that or I'll do it off camera, one or the other. But yeah, that does it for this episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series so far. Drop those comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.